Zohran Mamdani. Now, that may sound like a name associated with a carnival and a guy in a top hat and a cape who can predict the future, for a small fee, of course. He's an immigrant to the United States. He is a advocate of Palestinian terror. He is a socialist. He is a Marxist. And he's on his way to being the Democratic nominee to be the mayor of New York.
Let's get ready to rumble! You can't handle the truth. Somebody on top of the line!
Hi, I'm Pastor Marty, and this is the Afternoon Drive. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, and once you are, smack the bell, click the word all. That'll give you a notification of my rants, my ravings, my undeniably flawless reasonings. Please like and share this video. It's the only way that we can get the word out that we're here. Thank you so much for watching and being a part of the Afternoon Drive.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Flashback.
The problem for shoppers here these days isn't the long lines. Russians are used to waiting in line. Their concern is what happens when they reach the end of that line. There, they'll find either bread or milk 3 or 4 times higher than they were just weeks ago, or worse, no food at all. That's the case when Svetlana arrives at the milk store. There is a crowd, but nothing to buy, which leads to shouting matches. This pensioner says employees are hoarding the food, not selling it to customers.
Some sugar was brought to this store. That's why people came here in order to buy this product. But there was no any sugar, and the person who was working here told them that there was no sugar anymore.
Zohran Mamdani running for the mayoral office of New York City, running against incumbent Eric Adams and former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. Now, there are a few other candidates in the field, and Andrew Cuomo has made it abundantly clear, though he has conceded the nomination race to Mamdani, he's not leaving the race, and apparently Eric Adams isn't either. This is going to greatly divide the Democratic Party, and the conventional wisdom and fear among the experts is this will be the open door that a pretty much avowed Marxist like Mamdani will become the next mayor of New York City. Now, let me share a couple of, shall we say, alternatives to what I think could happen, and one that I'm pretty confident probably will happen. Number one, by dividing the Democratic field, dividing the Democratic voters, it is an opportunity for Republicans. You know, when you hear a mayoral candidate in New York talk about things like city-owned grocery stores, where they won't have to pay any rent, any property tax, and this will be in the what they refer to as the food deserts, you know, one of these in each borough, so that poor, low-income families will have access to things like fresh produce. Now, those of us who have been alive more than, 20 years, we've seen all this play out in other places, in particular places like Venezuela and the Soviet Union, where people showed up to the government-owned stores, and most of the time they were empty, they were dirty, they were less than sanitary to where you would even want to buy any type of produce there to begin with. And their food supplies were not always necessarily from sources that you would necessarily trust of having your best health interests at heart. So there's all of that. The fact that this is only going to exasperate the corporate-owned stores and the mom-and-pop businesses from folding up and just going away. Now, of course, this is spun, and the naive youth within the left movement think this is a wonderful idea. This is how you break the back of corporate greed, because, corporations would charge you $50 for a gallon of milk if they thought they could get away with it. At the end of the day, corporations do like to make money. However, the corporations do have obligations they have to meet. The same people screaming about the price of everything also expect, $50 minimum wage, $50 an hour minimum wage for the workers. Well, you can't keep inflicting on corporations and small businesses licenses and fees and taxes to cover this social program, this, that, and the other, and not expect prices to go up. But now if these stores have to compete against, a store that doesn't have to pay property tax, doesn't have to pay rent, and probably doesn't have to pay a whole lot of other things that are required by the same city, the same municipality on small businesses when it comes to the workman's comp and the insurance, etc., etc., etc. So there's that. So we said, number one, we're going to have these city-owned stores, and this will be a good thing, and it will divide the pack as everybody stays in to run for mayor, and that's an open shot for the Republicans. The problem is this, for the left and the uninformed and in the poverty-stricken areas, is going to sound like a great idea. And so this could actually gain some traction. Mamdani has said that he wants to increase the property taxes in wealthier, whiter, his exact words from his website. He wants to increase the property taxes in wealthier, whiter neighborhoods and decrease the taxes in lower income, apparently non-white neighborhoods. Because that's equitable. That's fair. Charge the white people more. Now, again, where this is going to obviously hurt Mr. Mamdani is how many white, even liberals, are going to vote for that. How many of the liberals of New York who give in and at least with lip service to every libloon cause and social justice issue out there, but at the end of the day, are they really going to sit for paying more in property tax and more to live and exist so that these programs can continue and they're going to pay a much higher property tax rate than others? And of course, Mamdani's on record as he wants to defund the police and let's put social workers in uniforms on the streets talking to people rather than arresting people. He wants to do away with the grade point average that's required to graduate things like, high school. So apparently, no grades. It's just when you're the acceptable age, you just get a diploma and told to go start your life. Let's flood the community with the functionally illiterate. Again, that's an absolute Marxist ideology because dumb people, non-thinking people, are easy to control people. Now, the conventional wisdom here is this won't pan out because, again, even white liberals, though they may talk outwardly positively about Zohran Mamdani, they're not going to vote for their own demise. However, what they could do is just leave. Just move out. Can you imagine what would happen to New York if the populace that's being targeted for the biggest tax increases just left? Back in the 1980s, I was growing up in the state of New York, and the then governor, Mario Cuomo, was talking about the idea of providing health care for New Yorkers, and we could do it through taxes on cigarettes. And I remember even as a teenager at the time thinking, okay, so you're going to propose all these social programs and promise people their taxes are not going to go up. What you're going to do is you're going to go after a targeted group of people, i.e., in this case, smokers, and you're going to make it so absolutely miserably expensive for them to smoke because you're using the tax revenue to pay for welfare, to pay for health care, to pay for this, to pay for that. What happens if everybody quits? Just quit smoking. If they quit smoking, they have defunded your source of revenue. So you would actually want more people to smoke, more people to pick up the habit so that there's more funds to work with. Well, if you're going to, in Mamdani's case, going to quote unquote tax the whiter neighborhoods more, you aren't going to have any whiter neighborhoods. They're just going to leave. But here's what I believe is the absolute stopgap, which will stop Mamdani in the end. The Democrats, the Democratic machine, they are not going to cede power to Mamdani. Can any of you remember the name Bernie Sanders? 2 different cycles. He absolutely, hands down, would have taken the Democratic nomination. But the Democrats felt compelled to change the rules as they went to, first of all, ensure it was Hillary Rotham Clinton, and then, of course, Obama Biden. Now, this one I don't think they saw coming. They fully expected this to be a slam dunk for Andrew Cuomo, that he would certainly successfully pull off the Democratic nomination in New York. And now that Mamdani has got it, now the Democrat machine is going to go to work. And you're going to start seeing stories, and they're not going to go after necessarily and talk down about his policies about the government-owned, the city-owned supermarkets, because this is about feeding the poor and virtue signaling and all of that. And they don't want to be seen as coming against that, even though they know it's a colossally bad idea. And defunding the police and all these other radical social ideas that he has. But you're going to find all of a sudden there are stories that start coming out about his legal status. And we're already starting to hear little rumblings of that when you come into the country, one of the things that you have to basically avow to is that you are not a terrorist, nor do you support nor condone acts of terrorism. And Mr. Mamdani is on record as supporting terrorism. And so will the Democrats lead the charge, or simply turn over all the evidence that they have on Mamdani to their Republican counterparts to literally take him out, that, maybe even deported? You watch. Now, they'll try to spin it, it's the Republicans persecuting him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I promise you, behind closed doors, there are Democrats like Chuck E. Cheese Schumer working with certain members of the MAGA movement. Because trust me, establishment Democrats don't want this guy being mayor any more than conservative Republicans do. So it'll be an inside job, and I personally believe they will take him out. Now, I don't know why they haven't taken out Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Her real name is Sandy. And, of course, she's not from the Bronx. She's from a really pretty upper middle class white patriot, 90 minutes outside of New York, Yorktown Heights. I believe that's the name of it. I could be wrong on the name, but she basically grew up in a really upper middle class, I wouldn't call it suburban, but just one of those small little hamlets outside the city of New York. And she may have been born in the Bronx, but she moved to this place when she was like an infant, went to preschool there, went to elementary school there, went to junior high school there, graduated from high school there, and then went off to Boston to go to college. So this whole, she's from the streets and she's a girl from Brooklyn and she can eat a guy from Queens, referring to Donald Trump. It's all an act. It's all fake. It's all fraud. And I think that the Democrat machine keeps AOC around because they think she's a useful idiot and they can manipulate and control her. I do think that they don't see that in Zohran, that he's an ideologue and they're going to want him gone. And so my prediction is the Democrat machine will end the political career of Zohran Mamdani.